Hello and welcome to today's edition of the Daf Yomi, Bava Metzia Daf 80 Amud Ace. Let's dive straight in. To start off with the Mishnah, Ha-Shocher es ha-par l'choros b'ha-vacharet b'bicha im nishba ha-kan-kan potter. With regard to one who rents a cow and a plough in order to plough on the mountain, but he ploughed in the valley, if the ploughshare, can or ploughshare. This translation follows Rashi and most commentaries explain that the can refers to a blade of a plough. Others claim that the can refers to the yoke that is placed on the neck of the ox, and that's from the Rabbi Zechariah Agamati, that's from the Rabbi Baruch Sephardi. And there's a picture here, can of a ploughshare, plough with rusty ploughshare. The cutting tool on the bottom part of the plough breaks, he is exempt, as it was even more likely to break on mountainous terrain. In a case where he rents a cow and a plough to plough in the field, in the valley, but he ploughed on the mountain, if the ploughshare breaks, he is liable. What does that mean? With regard to one who rents a cow to plough on a mountain, but ploughs it with it in a valley, he is exempt from paying for the damage if the blade of the plough breaks. The owner of the broken plough can take up his case with the workers who did the ploughing by saying that since they ploughed on a less difficult terrain than the agreement called for, it can be assumed that it was the workers' carelessness that contributed to the damage. Similarly, in a case where the plough breaks but the renter did not diverge from the intentions of the owner of the plough can litigate with the workers. One who rents an animal to plough in the valley one who rents an animal to plough with in the valley but ploughs with it on mountainous ground is liable if the plough breaks, as he diverged from the agreement by working on a more difficult terrain. Nevertheless, the renter can litigate with the workers, as they may not have performed their work carefully enough. The Torah citing the Rosh says that if the same individual who hired the animal also hired the workers are completely exempt, as the renter is the one who diverged from the agreement and sent them to the difficult terrain. Consequently, he must pay them their wages in full. Says Rambam say from his Padam Hilchot Shakivut for 1 Shulchan Aruch Mitzvah 9:4 in the comment Ruma. If he hired the cow to thresh legumes, Ledush Bekidnis Cholu. If one rents an animal to thresh legumes, but he had it thresh grain, and the animal slipped and was injured, he is exempt. If the agreement was to thresh grain, but he had it thresh legumes and it slipped and was injured, he is liable. The Rambam say from his Padam Hilchot Shakivut 4:3 Shulchan Aruch Mishpat 9:5. With thresh grain, and the cow slipped and broke his leg, he is exempt. If he hired it to thresh grain but thresh legumes, he is liable, because legumes are slippery. The Mishnah discussed the liability of a renter who diverged from the terms of the rental agreement, but it does not teach halacha of liability for broken machinery in a case where the renter did follow the agreement. The Gemara asks, in a case where the renter did not diverge from the agreement, who pays? If the plough breaks in the course of the work, the worker holding the plough is considered a fool and must pay. If it was on a hilly terrain, both the one who holding the plough and the one leading the cow are liable, and that's the Rambam saying in Pratim Hilchot Shakivut. He would for 2 Shulchan Aruch Mishpat 9:4. My Papa said, one who holds the goad, a parasha, what's that? Parasha Ramana, a goad and a vessel. In traditional ploughing, the individual who is ploughing holds a goad or a whip in one hand, and the plough referred to here as the vessel in the other hand. And the picture here of an Egyptian man holding a plough handle and a whip. What's a parasha? What's a goad? In Aramaic and Syriac, parasha is a cattle goad. According to the biblical term for cattle goad, malmad is translated into Aramaic by uncles by means of this word. See Judges 3:31 pays. It can be assumed that he caused the plough to break by not leading it in a straight path. Or Sheisha, the Ravidi said, one who holds the vessel. Oh, there's another thing up here for goad. Some claim that parasha refers not to the goad, but to the handle of the plough with which one directs the plough blade, and that's from Rabbi Zechariah Agamati citing Rabbi Baruch Sephardi. The plough itself pays. And the halacha is the one who holds the vessel pays. And if it was in a place where rocks are commonly found, they both pay. As in this case, any small irregularity in the ground where the plow digs a furrow is likely to cause the plow to break. Rabbi Yochanan says, citing the Tosefta Bava Metzia Daf 4:6, in a case that one sells a cow to another and said to him, "You should know that this cow has defects. It is accustomed to goring. It is accustomed to biting. It is a kicker. It lies down habitually, but in reality, it only has one defect, and he inserted it among the list of defects that it did not have, but this is a mistaken transaction." So what does this mean? What does it mean by a list of defects? Nofel ben Hamumin. The early commentaries offer a different interpretation of this Tosefta. According to Rashi, the seller lists several defects, only one of which the animal actually possesses. Others add that the seller lists several potentially visible defects, none of which is accurate, and he includes within them the one defect that the animal actually does have, which is not visible, says the Rif. And then others say that Senafo does not mean that the seller inserts the one actual defect in the list of spurious ones, or he hides the defect by omitting it entirely and listing it in its place other defects that the animal does not have, says Ravid. With regard to the question of Rav Ahad, son of Rava, about an animal that has all of these defects, the Ravid explains that the seller listed the number of real defects but omitted one, reasoning that if the buyer weighs concern about all the other defects, evidently he is not so concerned generously about the Gura. If one sells a cow, tell the buyer that the cow has specific visible defects and list among them a defect that cannot be easily discerned, but it turns out the cow that has that unrecognizable defect but none of the others, this is a mistaken transaction. If the cow has all of those defects, it is not a mistaken transaction. If the cow has a visible defect and the seller shows it to the buyer and tells them that it has this defect as well as the others that are not noticeable, indeed it has those defects, this is not a mistaken transaction. So Bava Metzia Daf 15:7-9, Shulchan Aruch Mishnah 232:8. A mistaken transaction is one in which one of the participants were under a false impression with regard to its terms. This transaction is considered a mistake and can be invalidated by the injured party. For example, if one buys an animal and discovers it is deceased, he can invalidate the sale. As the buyer saw that it did not have any other defect and therefore did not take seriously any of the defects the seller enumerated, including the one that the cow actually had, but if the seller stated the animal has this defect, i.e. the defect that it in fact has and other defects without specifying what they were, this is not a mistaken transaction. The Gemara notes that this is also taught in the Brighton Tosefta Bava Metzia Daf 4:3 with regard to one who sells a maid servant to another. If one sells a male or female slave, the buyer cannot void the sale due to defects that did not prevent the slave from doing his or her work. An invisible defect was obviously seen by the buyer, while a hidden defect, e.g. scar or halitosis, does not render the sale void. Hidden defects that sap one's physical strength, as well as mental disabilities and epilepsy, which affect the slave's ability to perform work, do impact the sale. Therefore, if it turns out that the sale has one of these defects and the buyer made a mistake in this regard, he may renege on the deal. Bava Metzia Daf 15:10, Shulchan Aruch Mishnah 232:10. And says to him, this maid servant is an imbecile, she's epileptic, she's crazy. Mishu Memes. Inserting the word means insanity. Apparently, the usual term employed for someone who is mentally impaired, a shota, refers to one who lacks virtually all mental capacity, either due to a birth defect or an illness. By contrast, shiamum means insanity with regard to certain matters, in that this individual does not behave in the manner of most people. But in reality, he has only one defect, and he inserted it among the other defects is a mistaken transaction. Neither seller stated this mitzvah has this defect, i.e. the defect that she in fact has, and other defects, without specifying what they were. This is not a mistaken transaction. Now, Ahasan and Rava said to Rav Ashi, if the animal had all of these defects, what is the halacha in that case? Can the buyer claim to have thought that the seller was not serious when he mentioned so many problems? Rav Mordechai said to Rav Ashi, we say the halacha in the name of Rava, if the animal had all of these defects, it is not a mistaken transaction, as he was forthright. The seller is not at fault if the buyer did not believe him. With regard to one who rents a donkey in order to bring wheat on it, the seller poured it on its back, and he brought upon it an identical weight of barley, which is lighter than wheat, and the donkey was injured, he is liable. Similarly, if he hired it for transporting grain, and he brought straw of the same weight upon it, he is liable, because the extra volume is as difficult for the animal as the load itself. What does that mean? And nefach kasher b'maso, if one rents an animal to carry a given weight of wheat, but instead makes it carry the same weight of barley, and the animal dies, he is liable, as the additional volume is difficult for the animal to bear. The halacha is according to the opinion of Rava, and say mitpad mehilchat shekirut, before shulchan aruch mitpad 384. If he rented a donkey in order to bring on a letach, a measurement of volume of wheat, but he bought a letach of barley, he is exempt, and as he bought the same volume of a lighter substance. And one who adds to a load of greater volume than he stipulated is liable. How much must he add to the load for him to be liable? The Chama Yosef al Masao Vihei Chayev. Some commentators explain that the rent is liable if the volume of the extra freight amounts to 1/30th of the initial stipulated cargo. Others maintain the rent is liable only if the animal's load amounts to 1/30th more than the load the animal is generally capable of carrying, said the Ramban. If the agreement was that the volume well within the animal's capacity, i.e. half a letach for an animal that usually carries a letach, and the renter exceeds the agreement and loads a full letach, he is exempt from paying for any damage if the animal is injured. According to this opinion, the measurement of samchos refers only to excess beyond the appropriate size load. With regard to one who rents an animal to carry a known weight and has more than the stipulated load, if he increases by more than 1/30th of the agreed upon weight and dies, he is liable. If he has less, then he is exempt, but he must pay for the addition in accordance with the opinion of Samchos. Seif Midpan Hilchot Shekirut 4:6 Shulchan Aruch Mishpat 385. Samchos says in the name of Bava Metzia, a say on a camel and 3 kav on a donkey. A say is a measure of dry volume, first mentioned in Genesis 18:6, used by says as a point of reference for all measures. A say contains 6 kav, which equals 24 log. Estimates of a modern equivalent of a say range from 7.2 to 14.4 liters. That's a kav. This is a basic unit of measurement from which many other smaller units are derived. It is equivalent to 1/6 of a seah or 24 egg bulks. It was said that the Umayim disagree about the precise text of this Mishnah. Abai said that we learn the Mishnah difficult as a load. Rava said that we learn difficult for the load. The Gemara explains that Abai said that we learn difficult as a load, with the meaning that volume is like weight, and therefore when the volume of the two substances is equal, if one adds 3 kav, he is liable. Rava said that we learn difficult for the load, with the meaning that if the weight is like the other weight, then the difference in volume is considered an addition. In other words, one is liable for the weight of the barley is the same as that of the wheat, in which case the additional volume is considered cause damage. Rava holds that if the volume of the two is equal, one is not liable for the additional 3 kav of weight. The Gemara attempts to cite a proof for any of these opinions. We learned in the Mishnah, if one hired a donkey to bring letach of wheat, but he brought a letach of barley, he is exempt, and one who adds to a load a greater volume than he stipulated is liable. One, is it not correct that this means that he did not bring exactly a letach of barley, but added 3 kav, which would support the opinion of Abaye? Or a fierce interpretation, no, he added a whole seah. The Gemara asks, but the continuation of the Mishnah was taught concerning this case. How much must he add to the load for him to be liable? So the Melchizedek says in the name of Bava Metzia, I say on a camel and 3 kav on a donkey. The Gemara explains that this is what the last clause of the Mishnah is saying. In a case where the renter did not diverge from their agreement, e.g. they stipulated that he would bring wheat and he bought wheat, or barley and he bought barley, how much must he add to the load for him to be liable? The Melchizedek says in the name of Bava Metzia, I say on a camel and 3 kav on a donkey. The Gemara further suggests, come and hear proof from a Brayta that if one hurried a donkey to bring a letach, 15 say of wheat, but he bought 16 say of wheat, he is liable. That moves us on to the next Omid. I wish you a very good day and all the best. Bye.